Hey guys, we're back again tonight. We're going to go over the root words number, kind of the second set that I've got, and I'll keep this short tonight because this session should be pretty quick. A lot of it has to do with the numbering systems and so on and so forth. So if you've had any sort of Spanish or any sort of French, a lot of these words are going to be pretty close to what you've already been used to. So I'm going to start off with this excerpt is from the autopsy of Nicole Brown Simpson in 1994. Her and her colleague, her and her friend were murdered at her apartment. So this is, again, looking at root words here. Follow along here. After approximation of the edges, it is seen to be diagonally oriented on the right side and transversely oriented from the midline to the left side. So again, trans means across. So if you think about, and this is a wound around her neck area, a diagonal oriented on the right side, cutting across from the midline to the left side. So from the middle, mid means middle, from the middle part of the neck across, which is where the transverse comes into play, from the middle to the left side. On the right side is an upwardly angulated toward the right earlobe and extends for 4 inches from the midline. Okay, so again, middle to the right side. On the left side, it is transversely oriented and extends 2.5 inches to the anterior border of the left sternocleidomastoid muscle. Big, massive word right there. It's a major muscle that extends from the back of the head to the front of the neck towards the sternum area, the middle bone of the body. The mastoid, there's what's called the mastoid process on the back of your skull, which is where this muscle attaches. The edges of the wound are smooth with subcutaneous and intramuscular hemorrhage. Sub meaning below, so below the skin. Intra means within. Okay, so there is a wound. The edges of the wound are smooth with below the skin and within the skin hemorrhage. Fresh, dark, red, purple is evidence. On the right side of the upwardly angulated wound passes through the skin, the subcutaneous tissue, again, below the skin tissue, the platysma, which is a muscle group, passing under the ramus of the right mandible. The ramus is the major muscle of your cheek that allows you to chew your food, and upward as it passes through the strap muscles on the right, towards the digastric muscle on the right, and through a thyrohyoid membrane and ligament. Okay, so this is the membrane that covers your thyroid in your neck from the hyoid bone that sits right above it. Further dissection discloses that it passes posteriorly and transects. It comes across, it cuts across the distal 1/3 of the epiglottis, epi meaning upon, the hypopharynx. Remember, hypo means below. So below the pharynx, pharynx is your voice box, and passes into the body of the third cervical vertebrae, where it transversely, across, oriented 3/4 inch incised wound as seen in the bone. Lots and lots of terminology here. But again, if you understand where that terminology comes from, a lot of these big words here that can confuse you, if you understand that trans means across, and sterno is the sternum, and the mastoid is the structure in the back of the head. Intra means within, sub means below, hypo is deficient or below. Okay, you can start to kind of make sense of some of these words. So when I say these words today are pretty easy, look at the first two here. Bi meaning two. Bisect means two halves. Dissection means to cut into or to cut into two. Sorry, there's a typo right there. Tri meaning three. A tripod has 3 feet or 3 legs. A triangle has 3 angles. So again, big fancy words. Start breaking them down into the root words. So bi or die meaning 2, and tri meaning 3. Quart is 4. A quarter is 4 of these, makes $1. A quartet has 4 singers to it. Quint is 5. A quintuple or quintuplet is consisting of 5 parts. And there's lots of TV shows about quintuplets because they're very rare. And then quintuplicate means to multiply by 5 or any multiple of 5. So when you're doing multiplication, 5 times 5 would be an example of a quintuplicate. So anything by 5 is going to be quint. Sex is going to be 6. Sexpartite has 6 equal parts. Sept is 7. Septavalent is the valency of the sevenfold. A septeme is the 7th of the 8 basic positions in fencing. Fencing is a sport that uses a kind of a sword-like structure. So septeme is the 7th of the 8 basic positions. Octo is 8. Again, octagon is an 8-sided object. Octopus has 8 tentacles, so octo means 8. Deca is 10, and we've talked about deca before. When we talked about the metric system, a decade is 10 years in length. A decimeter, deci being 1/10 of a meter, and then deca meaning 10 meters. Okay, so decade, deci, and deca, all of them have to do with the number 10. A little bit differently, hemi is half. Okay, so a hemisphere, the northern hemisphere, the southern hemisphere. A hemisphere is going to be half of the world, half of a circle, half of a globe. Hemicycle, okay, is half of a cycle. Not related to bicycles or tricycles, but in terms of if you have a life cycle, half of that life cycle would be considered a hemicycle. Everyone should know this one. Photo means light. Photosynthesis, synth means to create. Isis is a condition, so a condition made by light. A photocell, if you're into saving energy, is a part of a solar panel that captures light and converts it into a usable electrical energy. Photons that travel from the sun to our planet are little tiny packets of energy, energy of light. Okay, so the photons are the beginning part of photosynthesis. Anti is against, an antibody. Okay, so when you get sick, your body makes antibodies which will fight off the virus or the bacteria if it comes back. That's the big race we have right now with the coronavirus, is they're trying to find out, is the body making antibodies against the coronavirus? If it is, then they can make a vaccine from those antibodies and give it to the rest of the world, and coronavirus will be something of the past. Okay, anti-competition or anti-competitive are forces that create unequal competition. They're forces that work against each other to create unequal competition. A lot of this, you see this, a lot of this in business world. Antibiotics, okay, again, working against infections. Okay, these medications that destroy infections and bacteria. So anti means against. Ambi, some of you guys might have this trait, means both sides. So someone who is ambidextrous is able to use both hands. They can bat right-handed and left-handed. They can write right-handed and left-handed. Ambisexual means they have a sexual orientation to either sex, male or female. Transsexual would be a very similar type of term. And the last two are kind of opposites here. Inter being between and intra being within. Okay, so an interstate is a roadway that runs between states. Interact are actions between a group of people, how the group interacts with each other. Intra is within. Okay, so an intravenous would mean within the veins. So a lot of times if you get dehydrated, you have to go to the doctor and get a bag of fluids. They give that to you within your veins, called an intravenous bag. And then intramural is competition within a college. When two basketball teams from like Illinois and Michigan play each other, that's called inter-athletics. When two basketball teams from the same college compete against each other, we call that intramural. Okay, and when you go to college, hopefully you'll do intramurals because they're a lot of fun. All right. So again, these words are pretty straightforward. Buy and die, try. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. Hemi is half. Photo is light. Anti is against. Ambi is both sides or just both. And then inter and intra, you got to keep those two straight. Inter is between. So like think of Interstate 55 runs between Missouri, Wisconsin, and Illinois. and intra is within, so within or inside the body. All right, so I'm going to cut it off there. I'm going to post this video along with another little 4-minute video from YouTube that's going to talk about root words and their origins, and then another Google form to fill out.